Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Check the Post of Husker Nation. Brought to you by Nebraska Spine Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, what a finish. An untimed down. Scott Frost literally changed the end of that game. But it was awesome and it was totally worth it. And actually, I was like, man, how many times has the white team actually won the spring game? I remember in 2005 when the white team blew out the red, but that's because Callahan, he literally stacked the white team because he got sick and tired of looking through the history books of Nebraska spring game lore and seeing the red team always win. But recent history, here we go. The white team wins for the first time in the last 5 years, the Nebraska spring game. Only the second time in the last 22 years or the last 20 Husker spring games. Again, we had no spring game last year. The virtual one was awesome. But also in 2012, the spring game was canceled as well. But the white team with the upset. All right, now, when Frost and Kenny Bell were asked about their biggest takeaways from the spring game, they both talked about the line. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. It's hard to judge the line without going back and watching film, truly judging it. So I'm going to save that for my full spring game breakdown come Monday morning. Check that out, 8 a.m. Central Time on Monday morning. But I was just glad to hear a former quarterback point to the trenches as what's important. I was glad to hear a former wide receiver and a great in Kenny Bell point to the trenches as to where games are won or lost. Thank you, guys. You're highly intelligent. All right, there was 36,406 Husker fans back at Memorial Stadium. That was awesome to see. Not quite capacity, but still fun to see nonetheless. Now, in the first half, let's look at that specifically first and foremost right off the bat, because that's where most of the starters got most of their playing time. Now, the offense had 5 possessions. They scored on 3 of them. A touchdown, 2 field goals. They had the punt and the INT right before halftime. Now, they went right down the field and looked great on that first possession. After that, they slowed down just a little bit, okay? You could kind of see even the 2-minute drill, they weren't able to score. They weren't able to punch it in. They ended up being forced to punt. Now, that being said, Adrian Martinez, he looked in control of the offense. You just watch his body language. You watch his demeanor. You just watch how he's conducting himself and his physical emotions and just being a leader out there. Now, I thought he played better a little bit early on, okay, then towards halftime, if I'm being completely and utterly honest. Now, maybe the wind was a part of that. There was clearly a lot of wind in Memorial Stadium today on Saturday. He definitely looks faster, okay, definitely looks a little lighter, a little faster. I think that's going to help Adrian Martinez's game going forward. This is hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge with no contact in the first half. In the second half, they were tackling, but those guys weren't the starters. Projected starters anyways. There's no contact. The teams were clearly tilted towards the red team, at least in the first half. The rosters were. The white team with the heroic all-time great comeback. All right, and there were several players out of this game as well. So it's a little bit hard to judge, but based on what we had to work with, all right, these are my thoughts. Now, Omar Manning had a couple of opportunities. You can see they want him to be a big part of the offense going forward. There were some holes for the running back. Oh, by the way, I don't always take notes for my gut reactions, but when I do, I use notebook paper. All right. There were some holes for the running backs early on in the games, also throughout the second half as well. There were some breakdowns in pass protection at times, particularly at the guard position, I noticed. I'm going to go back and break that down a little bit more. I'll talk about that on Monday. And we always had our, oh-so-fun swing passes. Now, in the second half, it was live, tackle football. All right, a couple guys who stood out, all freshmen. Okay, Nash Huntmaker, 6'5", 330 pounds, made some plays on that D-line. Young defensive tackle, running back Jaquez Yant showed what he can do. He showed a little bit why people have been talking about him all spring. I know that they believe there is a possibility he could be their starting running back come the fall. Strong possibility, a walk-on freshman there from Florida. All right, Josh Bullock had a couple of nice open field tackles, forced a fumble, a freshman there out of Creighton Prep there in Nebraska. And even though his stats weren't great, you can see that Heinrich Harburg is someone is a quarterback that the coaches are trying to get a bunch of reps to. I wonder why that might be. We need a backup quarterback. Tune in Monday, see my full breakdown for the spring game. It's fun to at least see Husker football and see fans. Go Big Red, throw the bones.